All right, so we are back on the W.A.D.E concept presented by The Ring Magazine, and today we have a bomb that has been dropped on the boxing world. Breaking news, folks. Apparently, according to The Ring Magazine, and we're going to get into the announcement, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao are in talks for a rematch in big 2026. This is real. I am not lying to you. I would never do such a thing, but we have to talk about it. What is going on? Why is this happening? And where is it happening? And it's not just that this is a potential rematch in talks. It's apparently supposed to be on Netflix. So what is happening? Why is it happening? Let's get to all of it. The breakdown. Let's go. All right, so like I said, on the Inside the Ring show on the Ring Magazine's YouTube channel, Malik Scott, Max Kellerman, Shady McCoy still doing his thing somehow there. He's fair play to Shady. He's bringing the heat from the football world into the boxing. And Cop himself, Mike Coppinger, sat down to talk about this exclusive announcement from the Ring Magazine. Let's take a listen.
However, today, Mike Coppinger has a cop bomb, or what do we
I don't know. You said I have singles. Is this like, what is this, a double? Or?
This is big news, actually. But go ahead, tell the people.
Man. All right, so I am hearing from reliable sources that Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, yes, more than 10 years later, a rematch is being seriously discussed to take place next year on Netflix. And Netflix, of course, is very much into eventizing these, whatever they put on, whether it's boxing or tennis. And so far, they've done Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. They just did they just did Canelo against Crawford. And obviously, a rematch between Mayweather and Pacquiao, even at this stage, would classify as a big event for Netflix. And I think there's a real possibility this is going to happen. Mayweather's now 46, I believe. And Pacquiao's around the same age. But look, this was the biggest fight in boxing history when it happened. And I think all these years later, a rematch, if it happens, especially after the way Pacquiao looked in July against Barrios, there would be serious interest.
Yeah, I mean,
all right, so there's the announcement. Apparently in serious talks, sometime in 2026 on Netflix, Mayweather, Pacquiao 2. And what Cop said there, I agree with a lot of it. Number one, I agree that this, regardless of the skill level, regardless of the time out of the ring, regardless of all of that, this would still be a very sought-after fight. And I don't know if that's a good thing for boxing, that we continue to have to find, I don't want to call it a gimmick fight, but we continue to have to rely on the past, the greatness of the past versus the greatness of the present to provide big monumental events. And yes, I'm referring to Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, but to be fair, we did just have Canelo and Crawford on Netflix, so there's that. But I don't know. I really don't know how to feel about this. Like, am I upset about it? No. Is it the thing I'm most excited for in 2026 for the sport of boxing? No. Will I watch it? Yeah, I will, because this is a bit of a different thing than Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. Both these guys are old. Both these guys, I mean, I'm just saying it like it is, they are. Both these guys were at one point the highest level in the world, but when they fought, it was about 5 years too late then. That was 11 years ago, and we saw how the fight went then. What would make it any different now? The only thing I can think of is because they're a little older, a little slower, and they're still willing to get in there and do it, that maybe we would get more of a slugfest. I still don't know if Mayweather's reflexes have diminished that much. I mean, we saw Manny Pacquiao go toe-to-toe with a sitting world champion in the sport of boxing right now, Mario Barrios. That may be more an indictment on the sport than this fight would even be. The fact that 46-year-old Manny came out of retirement after 3 years and went toe-to-toe and arguably beat Mario Barrios, let's be honest, that's probably more of an indictment on the sport than this fight would ever be, but you're still going to get that feel of like, oh man, here come the novelty act fights. All right, this is what we're doing. I don't necessarily feel that way. You're going to get that feel with a lot of the hardcore boxing fans, but just like a Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, just like a Gervonta Tank Davis, Jake Paul, just like a Floyd Mayweather, Logan Paul, you're going to get more of an attention outside of your hardcore fan base from casual audiences to watch a fight like this. And in that way, it is a net good for boxing. It just means more eyes on the sport. That is a good thing. And again, this doesn't feel like as much of a gimmick because they are two legendary names in the same or around the same weight. They had already fought before. You're talking about pound for pound, number one, number two greatest all time in those weight divisions. I mean, you can argue for the heavier guy. I'm just saying these are two of the greatest, and if they want to do it, even in their old age, I wouldn't recommend it. But then again, Manny just fought a world championship fight and looked okay compared to what he was in there with. So I don't mind it. I will watch this. I will break it down. I will enjoy it. And yes, you can call it a novelty fight. You can say it's a one-off. You can say it's an entertainment fight. But what the difference in this and something like a Jake Gervonta fight, there isn't an inherent advantage weight-wise, experience-wise. There isn't a sitting world champion involved in this fight if you're taking time out to do it. There isn't a massive age difference. This is two of the best in their time fighting years later. This is almost more so like the Roy Jones Jr. Mike Tyson exhibition that happened in 2020, I think. This is more like that than it is, Jake versus Mike. And the Netflix thing is a great move. I mean, Netflix is, I think, doing it right. When it comes to finding things that people want to see, grabbing attention when procuring sports for their platform, you don't see Netflix going out, no offense to, smaller events in boxing or MMA or really anything, but you don't see Netflix going out and grabbing, a regular fight night to put on their platform. You don't see Netflix going out and showcasing high school football or even college football. You see them going after the biggest and most watched events they can possibly make. And I think, again, that's a good thing that boxing is included in it at all, right? You're seeing these exhibitions with Jake, and you're seeing the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight, and those do bring a ton of audience. Whether you like the fights or not, they do. And again, it brings more people to the sport. Do I wish that more people came to the sport for, championship bouts between guys like Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson, or that we could showcase the Ring 4 card on Netflix for David Benavidez and Anthony Yard and Devin Haney and Brian Norman Jr.? Of course I do. But you have to find a way to remind people about the sport of boxing. You have to find a way to get it in front of a massive audience to then have that trickle-down effect to the people that come for the Mike Tyson, Jake Pauls, the Jake Paul, Gervonta Davis, the Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, 16 years after it should have happened, or even the Crawford-Canelo fight, and hold on to as many of those people as possible that are interested in this sport. And in that way, again, everyone eats. And I think it is good for boxing. Now, you're always going to have this discussion of like, what's better for the sport? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? You're going to have people that go, no, I don't want to see this because they're two legends and are going to look like lesser versions of themselves than we remembered. And in that way, it may hurt their legacy. I'm not one of those people. I can separate the best from when they were the best to what they are now. And if these guys were, Floyd's close to 50. He might be 50 at this point. I don't even know. This is going to be a lesser version of that, but it's not like, someone in their 60s doing this, or even Mike in his late 50s doing this. And even then, I could separate, like Jake Paul beating Mike Tyson in a pro bout was not in any way, shape, or form me looking at his legacy and being like, damn, Mike lost to Jake Paul, his legacy done. No, he was 58. I could still go back and see 21-year-old Mike Tyson, or in his 20s in general, and how that guy looked and who he was and what he meant to the sport versus what he was at 58, and they're two different people. You should be able to separate those. But some people won't, and there will be a generation of kids that do watch this fight and go, well, these are supposed to be the greatest of all time. They don't look like that. These guys don't even look as good as whoever, name the person that they want to watch, whatever. So there is that risk you run, like, oh, that this is supposed to be the two GOATs, like Manny Pacquiao, 8-division world champ. What are we talking about? And he doesn't necessarily look like that. But I will say, Manny looked decent enough. I get 46 years old versus Mario Barrios, so he still got it at least to some degree. And we've seen Floyd in these exhibitions, with Leah Gotti's stepbrother. If you know, you know. John Gotti III. We've seen him against Logan Paul. We've seen him in these Deji, these exhibitions where he still has his reflexes. He still can fight. But oddly enough, this might be a hot take. When I watch it this second time around, Manny had the shoulder issue the first time in 2015, and they were still at the top of boxing, but their skills were fading. But this time around, them being a little older, a little slower, you may get a better fight out of it. Not necessarily a better looking aesthetically or higher skilled, but you may get a better, just a generally better fight. And again, you do something like this because it was, at the time, and still is, the most watched behind pay-per-view fight ever. They generated $600 million, I think, or something like that, for that fight. And that was the fight that everybody wanted to see. And if you can capture that same feel behind Netflix, which doesn't, yes, it has a paywall, but it's not pay-per-view behind that, you're going to get a lot of people that tune into this thing once again, just for that last go around, that last ride off into the sunset. So I listen, I don't think we're going to see anywhere near the skill that we would have seen had this been 2011, 2010 when it should have happened, but we still are going to get a decent enough fight. And I get both sides of the argument here when you're talking about, do we want to see it? Is it really good for the sport? Do we really need to see it? Are we going to have a better way of building the next generation of fighters to where we don't have to rely on these big one-off, exhibition type fights? I get all that and I hear it all, but I also think there's something to be said for if guys still have the ability, if they still are with it mentally and physically, and they still can draw a crowd, who's to say that we should stop them from fighting? It may not be the best look that this is who you get the biggest viewing numbers for, and that should be an indictment on boxing building its next generation of stars. But just like a Jake Paul, Mike Tyson card, just like a Canelo and Terrence Crawford card, you use those big names in the main event to have the trickle-down effect of all the fighters underneath that card. So yes, you have the novelty act kind of way too late rematch at the top of the card, but then you have potentially a Shakur Stevens, a Teofimo Lopez, potentially a Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, potentially a Abdullah Mason, Emiliano Vargas, potentially a Moses Itauma, Jaio Pataya, like these names of the great boxers that currently reside in their divisions that we don't necessarily look at as those guys that are coming up, or maybe that the casual audience doesn't necessarily know yet. You utilize that undercard for those type of guys, and hopefully the eyes that are on that card, just like a Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, get to see 75 million people watch Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. You get that same kind of trickle-down effect for those fighters, and they become more popular because of it. That, I think, would be the best case scenario. Here is Malik Scott talking about what he thinks of the fight.
Piggyback off of what Shady was saying, I actually believe people will feed into it heavy because we're talking about two of the elites of all time. They both are extremely technically sound. They both are known for what they have done in the ring. Obviously, Mayweather got the huge promotion market behind him. So does Pacquiao. I just think it does numbers. And I also would be like a huge fan of it. I think the way how Floyd is looking lately, whether it's in the gym and the way how Pacquiao has been looking in his last fight, I'm really into the fight if they're going to do it again, especially if it's going to be on the best stage in the world, the ring, the Netflix, and the same type of numbers.
Again, I kind of agree with that. Now, again, I know it's not the most consequential fight ever, but if they still are with it, and both guys have shown physically and mentally they are still with it, if they still have an ability, if they still have a hunger to fight, and yes, it's a money fight, we get that. But this time, the stakes aren't as high. We don't have world championships involved. You can kind of free up the rest of the division because people are talking about Manny Pacquiao fighting for another world title. Let's not do that. Let's have him go over here and fight this thing with Floyd because they're at the same stage of their career. They're at the same or similar skill level. And we always ask the question, what happened if they fought earlier? But now we would get the answer to what happened if they had fought again with a healthier or relatively healthier Manny Pacquiao, or later in age when Floyd slows down. I don't know, but you are going to potentially get some of the questions answered there of one of the greatest tandems of fighters that we never got to see at their prime. But hey, if we get one more time around and one more do-si-do, I'm not going to say no to it. I am fully aware and into this fight. I like this fight. And again, it doesn't mean that it has to be consequential for the sport. And maybe in the grand scheme of things, you want to get away from stuff like this because it does outshine the current talent in the sport, right? You don't want to have to rely on hitting the old faithful, which is let's pull somebody out of retirement because everybody knew them. No, you want to create new stars so that people do know them. But for this, because it really doesn't affect the sport as a whole, because it's almost off on its own island, I say yes. I'm into it. You guys let me know down below what you think. Breaking news, 2026. It was supposed to be Floyd and Mike Tyson, which I was not into at all. Thank goodness that's not happening because I just don't why. It makes no sense. We're talking about Mike, who's going to be 60, and Floyd, who, yes, is still going to be close to 50. And the weight difference, and that seems like a lot more of a circus freak show than this ever would. Give me this fight if we're going to do something like this. Put it on Netflix. Have the boxing people that recognize those two names come in, see a very talented undercard, become fans of those guys, and elevate the sport. That's what I think. You guys let me know down below. What happens? Does this thing even get off the ground? Is this for real? Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao 2026 on Netflix. I don't have those answers, but guess we'll find out.